listening to the Motor Mouth.
Hello. You guys are the best. Man, you guys are insane, hilarious, and the best stuff I've ever seen.
That's right, Chris and Ray.
Motor Mouth!
Can I win anything? I got through! I can't believe I got through!
Well, I'm glad you guys are around because I didn't even know you existed.
Hey, how are you, Motormouth?
This is one of those days, nothing to do, so I figure why not spend it with a couple of nobodies.
Motor Mouth!
You also have my picture up on the webpage.
Boy, you taught me something about that car.
Why must you ask such difficult questions?
Motor Mouth!
I don't know too much about motors.
Do I come running into your show?
We love you guys that have these shows.
Our trained staff of 2 will help.
Is this that jerky car show that I listen to? Oh, you distributed capital, my under-port condenser.
Quite frankly, there are better things to do with your time.
Trying to dial the phone with transmission fluid all over me. I finally got a chance to listen to you guys streaming. I'm in a good mood. I'm happy.
Yeah, I want to know what is wrong with my car.
I haven't even called my own mechanic back, but why don't I ask you?
But you guys are pretty special guys.
Motor Mouth!
Must be a motorcycle thing, because I'm not familiar with that.
Yes.
Let's just think right now, Murphy's Law, what's going to go wrong? Is the board going to explode? Is the mic going to drop? Is my phone going to drop? I love live radio. I'm just having some fun with you guys.
There are answers, sometimes correct ones, and we may have them.
Motormouth Radio, 90.3 FM, WHTC.
Motor Mouth!
This is Motormouth Radio, your 1-hour automotive talk show. And now, here are your Motormouths, Chris Switzer and Ray Guarino.
Alrighty, entertaining and informing the automotive world. 3 listeners at a time. This is Motormouth Radio, your 1-hour automotive talk show. I'm Chris Switzer. And of course, here's a man that can answer most any question, but still wrestles with the mystery of why our listeners in other states and countries will flatly refuse to call this show. It's Ray Guarino behind the shop bench. How are you, my brother?
Hola.
Hola, hola. And, of course, I got to do this intro. I wrote it down. I have to do this intro. Author, columnist, appraiser, air talent, explorer, orchestra leader, champion varmint wrangler, and, of course, the author of the book he has not written yet. I'm Steve Linden, and you can make money dealing in cars. Here he is, the extraordinaire himself. Steve Linden from SteveLinden.com. How are you, sir?
Very good. I never fail to get an unbelievable introduction here, regardless of whether it's true or not.
See? Good enough reason to come around, right?
Absolutely, right.
You're going to get that much love at home?
Come on. Fantastic.
It took a while to write it down. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. He's an explorer. He's an orchestra leader. He's a Renaissance man. I'm going to write this down to keep going.
Wow.
How have you been?
Very good. How about you?
Doing okay.
Excellent.
Doing all right. We're trying to get this show on the road and bring it to some place where we can do some damage with it. But other than that, and of course we get doors slammed in our face. But other than that, we're doing fantastic.
Great. You got to get a few doors slammed in your face, right?
You know, it's worth it. It really is. I always feel that if in this business, if you're not considered a complete failure, you're not doing that right. Yeah, every once in a while, someone's got to say, "Kid, you don't have it," and slam the door in your face. So we're getting a tough, thick skin and moving on quietly, sulking.
I'll tell you what, though, this experience may be softening us to the masses because I found, apparently I have a face for media.
Yeah.
Well, you could see it on vaughnlive.tv/.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Oh.
Yes, you could. No, Friday night, I was at the Belmore Cruise Night. It's been getting kind of crazy over there lately. A lot of guys doing some crazy things with their cars, and we're waiting for the hammer to drop and the officials to pounce. Mm-hmm. And we were in our spot, all the way on the other side of the tracks, the other side of the train station. And all of a sudden you see, on Sunrise Highway, things slow down and you see a cop car flashing lights, 2, 3, next to there's 5 of them, then there's an ambulance, now there's fire trucks. Like, what happened? Nobody heard anything. There were no crashing noises. You didn't hear 2 cars take off. There was, little things we thought might have happened. Somebody comes back and says, oh, somebody got hit. We'll think, well, it could have been a car. There was no noise. Maybe a pedestrian. Oh, God, that's the worst case scenario. Sure. Found out it was a traffic accident, and it was a pretty bad one. A woman was going east, same direction as a tractor-trailer at King Cullen there, and made a U-turn to go back west, but instead of straightening the wheel to come out of the U-turn and go straight, she the wheel. Keep saying she. I don't know if it was a woman. Forgive me for saying that.
There go all your female listeners.
I know.
That's it.
So much for that.
I retract that. The driver kept the wheel turned, or something happened with the car, made the U-turn and continued to turn across the median, right for the tractor-trailer now, and another car came in, and they both collided and went under the tractor-trailer.
Wow.
So that was the accident.
Right.
So later on, I wandered over there just to take a look and see what's going on, and my friend Jeff was there, and we're looking, and there was a guy there from Fios 1 with the camera and then the LED light and all, and of course, everybody, when they see the guy, hey, Fios, I switched, hey! All the mooks, all the idiots are doing their street act, right? So we're just standing there looking, and the guy wanders over like, hi. He goes, hey, you know what happened? I said, well, look, I didn't see it, but this is, as I know it from what I heard, this is what happened. He says, you mind giving me a little interview on camera?
Oh, come on.
Yeah,
Look
sure.
at that.
So he fires up the light, bang, tell him what I know, what's your name, give him my name, and that was it. And then he asked my friend Jeff, you want to go? No, not me. So I guess, like I said, I must have a face for media because...
Right.
Fantastic.
I didn't see the clip, so I don't know what, I was like, Motormouth! Hire us!
So you should have done that.
Yeah, that always goes over big.
Yeah, of course. That would have made
the cutting room floor. Like everything else.
So any media in your recent past, Steve?
Media,
were you on television? Did you meet Jay Leno? Did you have coffee with him again? You dirty dog, you. He was still envious of that.
No, he's laying low now that he's retired, for lack of a better word.
That's true.
Yeah. Good for him, but lots of interviews, believe it or not, with the opening of Cuba, normalization of relations with Cuba, and what's going to happen with the values of those cars.
Have they imported massive quantities of 50s car parts yet to keep their stuff on the road, or what?
Well, they don't have to, because they have massive quantities of everything from bakery bins to whatever it is, and that's what they keep these cars running on. They keep them going on everything.
They got to do it a better way.
But are those cars that are in Cuba, that have been in Cuba for the last 30, 40 years, actually longer?
60 years.
60 years, keep running and like using all these strange bakery parts on them. Do they have any value if you brought them back here?
I've actually been on Wall Street Journal, MSNBC. Those things have asked exactly the same question.
Wow.
And my opinion, this is just my opinion, is probably not, because, I don't have to tell you guys the value in those cars is in how much of it is original, how do they run, the normal things. These cars are pretty much awful. So I think if they have a value, I think the only value they're going to have is to non-car collectors, kind of an oddity, a conversation piece to have parked in your garage.
Hey,
but
I think they'd get scooped up. If I could pick up a 55 Chevy convertible for a decent price, even if it's kind of rough, if as a driver, why not?
But what value?
Yeah.
Well, right, but
at what price?
See, you guys are thinking about the end run, about the value. I'm thinking about the fun factor. Drive a 55 Chevy convertible. I got a motor in my garage. I got a tranny over here.
Yeah, but we may be thinking about the end value, and you're thinking about the fun factor. But how much fun is it looking at it in your garage because you don't have the same size tin pan that they had in Cuba to keep it running?
Well, no, but we do have the availability of all the restoration parts.
So you'd have to restore it.
And it's a car by car basis. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
But I think it would be kind of cool, and I think they may transcend from the car world into the art world. Where artists and people who just, have enough money, for lack of a better word, to have one parked in their garage, and they can sit around, their man cave, whatever it is, which I think is kind of cool, and this car was in Cuba. But to collectors, I don't think they have any value.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
No, I agree. I always think about... what is that car that was buried in Oklahoma City, that 57 Belvedere, Miss Belvedere?
Yeah.
That was sitting in water for 40, 50 years, and when they dug it back up, it literally it had the strength of tissue paper. You couldn't take this car and put it on the road, even though it was completely original, completely stock, and had absolutely no mileage on it.
Right.
But what is the car worth if it's just stable? It can't move, and that was the conversation. What value does something like that bring? Because, like you say, Steve, it's now an art piece.
But that's an easier question to answer.
Why?
Because as an appraiser, we go by comps. And maybe it was a year and a half ago, there was a huge auction out in Pierce, South Dakota, which you might be familiar with. There was a dealership that shut its doors.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was in the early 60s.
Yeah.
Yes. Literally shut its doors.
That was when they had the TV show about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
GM never took their inventory back, so some of these cars sat indoors, some of them sat outdoors. And there was some Impalas, for example, that were brand new, 0 miles, but they literally had trees going through them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But they still had MSOs. They were still brand new. and they sold for $30,000-$40,000.
Yeah.
Now there's no financial logic behind that at all.
That was a in the hobby. Yeah.
And there were a lot of these cars like that, you know. And the ones that were indoors, although they were totally deteriorated and still needed complete restoration, sold for multiples of that.
Well, on that note, talk about cars rare or not. What about a Coupe DeVille D'Marchand?
You read my column, right?
I always read your column. You know that.
Thank you.
Oh, what?
People ask me about your column.
You don't know what a Coupe DeMarchand is?
No, Chris doesn't read your column.
I was going to say sometimes I get a little Mercado in there, and they get it to foam up from a local coffee shop, but that's about it.
I didn't know what it was either. I get people all the time who call me and say, I have a rare car. I have a rare car. You know, there were only 10 of them made. This one I had never heard of. I had never seen it, and it was built in a time where I was growing up with cars, and I never heard of it. But the guy had an original window sticker, not a repro, nothing, and there it was from GM. It was a fairly expensive option. It was really just some trim pieces and a two-tone color scheme, but
like the Bill Blass edition.
Yes, right.
Well, tell us what kind of car it was.
I'm sorry. It was a it's a Cadillac Coupe DeVille, if I recall correctly. I think it was a '79.
Right.
And it was driver quality at best. You could get on the road with it and drive it, but it needed to be restored. So it begs the question, of course, what's it worth? You know?
Wow.
You know, you said it best in your column, and I quote, "It may be rare, but no one I've spoken to has ever heard of one, so therefore they never wanted one."
Right.
End quote. And you're right. I mean, now, so what's that? Even though it is rare, it's undeniable.
Yeah.
But what's it worth? I mean, it's rare, but who wants it?
That's the thing. Not everything rare. You know, I hate to say this because it's kind of demeaning to a lot of people, but there is an old saying: rare means nobody wanted it then, and nobody wants it now.
Well,
it's not really true, but it is true in many cases.
It's true in different reasons, and I'll tell you, I can tie that into Chris, like I said about networking and how things in the show have opened doors. I was at Belmore again Friday night, and I was told, "Hey, did you go see the Charger up the block?" And I knew what he meant when he said Charger. I said, "No," and I'd seen the car before. It's a one-of-one 500 Charger with a Hemi in it, right? And I saw the guy, and I'd seen him in the past. He was packing up to leave, these two fellas, and I said, "Hey, it's a beautiful car." "Oh yeah, okay, I got my way, kid." And I said, "Okay, I need a trump car. I need my foot in the door here." And I just said, "I'm a friend of Billy Giacchio's." Whoa! Stop shaking my hand. I get a hug. How's everything? How's Billy? Oh, you
mention a name.
Whoa, yeah. And now the door's open. Now he does have a rare car, and undeniably. But again, they were being sold for racing purposes back then. The flush grill, the flush backlight, and again, how many people bought them? There were cases Daytonas and Chargers sitting on the lots, the wing cars.
It was more often the case than not. The Torino Talladegas were the same thing. The Cyclone Spoilers were the same thing.
But that car through Provenance and through, I think, Chrysler, just the lure of Chrysler, does have a value that's, what people would attract to it.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that's really so interesting about the hobby. When you think about it, that car, it does. I mean, that car is very collectible. It's worth a significant amount of money. Now take some of the other cars that you just mentioned. The Superbird, the Daytona. Those, of course, are worth money. But what about, why not the Torino Talladegas? Why not the Cyclone Spoilers with the flush front grills, and the chassis where the lip was bent down so that they would meet the NASCAR regulations?
Right.
Same limited numbers. Why aren't they worth anything?
No, it's true. I think it's the drama of the wing car.
Well,
maybe. But the Charger 500 is not a wing car.
No, it's not.
But it's that drama of the Mopar.
Oh, it could be,
but
right.
I tell you, though, in all fairness, in the Ford circles, the Talladegas, they are highly regarded. So it's more of a shoebox type of thing where the people who are in that genre will love it and collect it and drive the value up.
It's also along the lines of, just in a very, very general sense, why do Fords trade at a fraction of the value of Mopars or GMs for a comparable car?
Very true.
Yeah.
What would a comparable Cyclone or a Mercury, what would they call
Torino Talladega.
The Talladegas or the Cyclones. What would they go for now?
They have started getting discovered. I would say probably 3 or 4 years ago, I saw the best ones in the world trading for $20,000-$25,000.
Wow.
And now they're twice that, but it's still a fraction of the Superbird or the Daytona or the Charger 500 even. It's a fraction of that value.
Yeah.
Right.
It'd be a seven-figure car.
Right. Yeah.
But it is amazing because there was an allurement, especially for some reason Mopars have those storied history behind them where there's only 7 Hemi Cudas or I think in 1970 and 1971 I think there were 11, and they've just recently, I'm saying recently within the past 3 or 4 years, found number 11 of 11 of those Hemi Cuda convertibles, and for some reason the collectors salivate over these stories. And it's like you say, it was rare then because I think it was damn near impossible to even buy one because they were just so. It was not that it was underdeveloped, but it was just so extreme. This big fat engine and these little minuscule brakes, and probably dealers at the time went, "You don't want that, kid."
There's another facet to it. There is.
I
the
agree,
Cuda's 70 to 74, so you're looking, say, 70 to 72, 70 to 71. Gas crisis, insurance rates. That
was in 73. You already bought the car in 70, 71. Now you're stuffing it in the garage.
It was on the horizon. The insurance prices were already on the rise. They were already getting those cars were already getting hit with the premiums.
Okay, maybe 71. Yes, you're right.
And I think the guy said, okay, well, instead of a Hemi or a 440, I could buy that 340 car and stay under the instead of I mean. The Cuda was a Cuda. You didn't have a way around that. But like with the Chevelle, you have to buy the Super Sport. You could have bought a Malibu. And then back then you could say, it's a Chevy Malibu. Okay, great. Click it in.
Right.
Low rates.
Well, they had in 1970, they had a Malibu 400.
300.
No, there was a 400 Malibu.
400?
In 1970, and it was the 402 motor that you were able to get in the car. And like you say, Ray, it was able to keep the insurance rates down.
I think you're talking about the heavy Chevy.
No, the heavy Chevy was an insurance car, but it was a small block motor. Right. The heavy Chevy, the Olds, the yellow Olds,
the Rally
350, right? All of those, the T37 Pontiacs.
Yes,
those were all answering to the insurances.
Yes.
But there was this one Malibu that was a 400, but it wasn't a Super Sport, and it fell under the radar.
So I know it was a 300.
They must have managed to get another code in the VIN because that's what the insurance companies looked at. Right. They looked at the code for the engine.
Mm-hmm. I'll show you the article. I was reading the article recently.
Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing that because that one got past me.
Yeah. Right. And that's the stuff that intrigues me, and I think that's the stuff that, like you as an appraiser, Steve, you take that into consideration when you're appraising a vehicle because there's such a storied history of these cars that these collectors kind of get the stories, and now you have to take these stories and try to separate truth from fiction because we've all heard the story about the 53 Corvette sitting in the garage that the old lady owned. Yep. You know, everybody's got a version of that, myself included.
Yeah. The hardest thing to do, though, like I said, with those cars is to really substantiate what they are because back then the VINs didn't correspond. The motor numbers didn't correspond to the VIN, so you could put them, even on my Pontiac, I could put any engine. When Alan Blay appraised my car the first time, he looked at it and says, engine code YS. Oh, it's a 389. No, it was a 68 400 with the YS. Just happened they reused the code. They didn't look at the date code on the back of the block. Right. So, you could get away with that. There was a lot of that going on. It still is. You can still build a car with as long as it's a date-coded block.
With Pontiac, right.
Or even with Chevy.
Well, no, with Chevy they were VIN-coded to the car.
Not in the 50s.
No, not in the 50s, correct. I think halfway through 62 they started. Yeah. Right. No, not in the 50s,
Right.
That's true.
So up to a point you could get away with it with an older Chevy, too.
Yes, correct.
We saw that the Chevy at the East Neck show, the tackle show, the 62, was it, right? The one with the we don't know if it was a 348 or we assume it's a 409 under the hood.
There were two 63s, There was a white 63.
The beige one that we saw.
Yeah, that was a 63.
And, it was a stripper car, like a Biscayne model or Bel Air. Yep. And 409. And there was something what was it that tipped me off that I thought made it not original?
The way the steering column.
Was
installed into the box with one of those.
A Borgenson joint.
That was.
So the column didn't come down right into the box. And I'm thinking, it would. In production, it would.
Right.
And the box has to go on the frame. So either that box is wrong or that engine was wrong. And I thought, boy, I wonder if
that's a good tip-off.
Just a little, and I'm curious if I was right about it, but who knows? But, the numbers could say that, that car could have had a 409 in it. Who's to say it didn't?
All righty. Let's take a quick break right here at Motormouth Radio. Steve Linden is with us. We've got a lot more to talk about here. Autos as investments. That's right. Something that Steve and I totally agree on.
Chris, let me vindicate you. Joe D just got in touch with me and said, Dan, Chris is right. It's option code LS3.
Thank you very much, Joe.
I wasn't aware of that.
I like when
Good work, Joe.
Yes, I like when I'm right every once in a while.
You do. You definitely do. Yeah.
Hey, 516-572-7440 is the phone number, and the Motormouth Radio Honor Group of the Hour. Drivers who own right-hand drive cars.
So right-hand drive Jeep last night.
That's right. If you still have that Land Rover or that Toyota that was imported across the big pond from England or Japan, Well, you're part of the Motormouth Radio Honor Group of the Hour, and it's a little harrowing driving, so pat yourself on the back carefully. Got more Steve Linden coming your way right here on Motormouth Radio.
The Motormouths will be right back with your car questions. Give us a call at 516-572-7440.
WHBC 90.3, the radio voice of Nassau Community College, is looking for individuals, businesses, charities, or organizations in our local global community that would like to donate to support our radio station. Whether you listen locally or online, here's how it works. Go to our webpage at ncc.edu/WHBC and click Donate Now. Or if you prefer, you can send a check to WHBC Radio, 1 Education Drive, Garden City, New York, 11530. Make your check payable to the NCC Foundation. In the memo of your check, write WHBC, Donate Now. Any contribution will help defray our operating costs, and it's tax deductible. This message was brought to you by the radio voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHBC. Streaming online at ncc.edu/WHBC.
This is Antonio Huggy Bear Vargas, and you're listening to Motormouth on WHPC 90.3.
All righty, welcome back to Motormouth Radio. We are taking those calls, 516-572-7440. If you would like Steve Linden to appraise your vehicle right over the phone, using his advanced mind techniques, he can figure this stuff all out for you. 516-572-7440. At least get close. You know, they'll figure it out. But yeah, we're talking with him, and we're kind of rocking and rolling here on this automobiles as investments. And Steve, you have this thing that you're in with your company, correct? And it's more or less along those lines. Can you talk a little bit about it?
I can talk a little bit about it. It's a company that myself and a partner has formed strictly for the purpose of investing in classic cars. And you know, unless you've been under a rock for the last few years, you see what's going on with the values of some really, really specific cars have, you know, just really, really done well.
Now, we're not talking about used Volkswagen Super Beetles here. We're talking about cars that I would say...
that we'll never own.
that command, what would you say, 7-digit numbers here?
Well, maybe they will command 7-digit numbers, but the cars that we're talking about are not 7-digit number cars, even though they have performed, you know, fabulously. But we're not, because we kind of feel that one of the things that does help lead to appreciation is affordability.
Oh,
so
okay.
There's a lot more people in the 6-figure digit market.
Okay.
You know, maybe the mid 6-figure digit market. You know, that can afford to buy these cars down the road when they've appreciated to that point.
So the goal here is to find that 6-digit number vehicle and see what in the future its value will be, and hopefully it will be increased, I'm assuming, correct?
Correct. Yeah, you know, hopefully it'll be increased by enough to outperform other investments that people might be able to make. You know, so it falls within that alternative investment market.
Which is exactly what you do in the stock market or bond market. You try to outperform the other entities.
Right.
So it's just replacing cars for paper.
It's replacing cars with paper, but it's more akin to people who invest in things like wine or art or things like that.
Tangible items, yeah. Durable goods, things you can hold and see. And
it's interesting. I've gotten an education in this, because you might say to yourself, well, why wouldn't I just invest in the stock market or just buy more stocks if I think it's going to go up that much? But I learned a term that I had never heard before in my life, as I learned so much doing this. There's something called a correlation, and there are correlation analysis that can be done to determine how your particular investment relates to the stock market. So apparently investors who are interested in alternative investments look for things that have low correlations to the stock market and other similar markets, because why invest in an alternative investment if you can just invest in the stock market?
Correct.
So if you think that the stock market maybe is going to go down or is not going to continue performing the way it was, you want something that's not closely correlated to the stock market. So they do these things that car guys don't know about, called correlation analysis.
Who compiles that data?
Actually, my partner in this endeavor is the money guy, for lack of a better word, and he has somebody who does that. And that's not something unusual. Apparently, this is something that sophisticated investors look at. So therefore, that explains why I never knew about it.
My rule of thumb was always, when the stock market was low or volatile, all of things that I liked the way someone explained this to me. Things that if you drop it, it will break. Those things would, like antiques, gold, automobiles, real estate, all of those things would increase in value. 9 out of 10 times. I'm not saying, I'm being very general here, but stock market would be a little fluctuating or low. All of those things that will drop and break will go high.
I think in a very general sense, I think you're right. That's my experience. That's what I've learned over the last year of putting this together. That seems to be the case.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So, and right now, since the market last week dipped about 1,000 points.
Oh, but it came up 2 days later.
Oh,
yes,
yeah, but
did.
still.
We're up 800.
Yeah. Let's go to
that beast.
Let's go to the phones, go to the fun, see where this goes. Say, hi, you're on with the Motormouths and Steve Linden.
Hey, what's up? It's Christian.
What's up, brother love? Big congratulations going out to you.
Thank you so much.
Good to hear from you.
Thank you.
How's everything in your world these days?
A little interesting. Yes.
I know.
You sleeping through the night?
Yeah.
That'll change.
Yeah. So far, couple technicalities here and there, but we're getting her tuned up.
Good. Very cool. Well, I saw a picture and I love it to death. So
yeah, she's great. She's gonna be a little drag racer, I hope. So we got to get her over to Dina, get her on the tree.
Yes. Yeah. Check the reaction times.
If nothing else, Dina can lend you a stroller with wheelie bars.
It might happen. And here's another word to the wise. You guys have been talking about brake bleeding and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Why are not guys using their wise breast pumps?
Oh, jeez. I think the key word for that is cross-contamination.
No, after they're done with it.
Okay.
The breast pump sitting in the closet. I tell you what, man, you could bleed some brakes with that baby.
That's a great idea.
Well, it's out of the box, I'll tell you that.
Why not?
You know what? You notice that noise? That. You know what? I go right to sleep.
But you could do left and right brake at the same time.
Christian, I think you've either had too much sleep or you definitely need some sleep.
Oh no, I don't know. The first couple of days, boy, let me tell you, it was quite amazing. Allison, she got a medal. She all natural. No drugs.
Wow.
Beautiful.
She was 9 centimeters when I got her in there.
Oh, man,
and, yeah. Pretty interesting trip to the hospital.
Oh, I'm sure.
I had a backup car and everything. It was like it was quite the trip.
Well, that is cool.
Yeah.
Very
Little
good.
Miss Ava Tracy Price. 5 pounds, 13 ounces, 18 inches. She's a little peanut.
Yeah, very nice.
She's killing me already.
I'm sure she is. Get the gun locked and loaded. Here we go.
But, I figured I'd share that with you guys. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And
no problem.
Glad you sent Ray a picture. And if Ray can get it off his phone, I can put it right on VaughnLive.tv/motormouthradio. But that's
you got it, gentlemen.
All right, Christian. Be safe.
All right, guys. Yep, I will, and I'll talk to you later.
Give Mama and baby a big kiss. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. 516-572-7440. The Magic Live Radio, Steve.
What a great idea, though.
Interesting.
Wow. He's still got a long way to go if he just had a newborn. Can you imagine what other ideas he's going to come up with?
Oh,
yeah, and Christian will, too.
Oh, totally. Let's go back to the phones. Back to the fun. Hi, you're on with the Motormouths and Steve Linden.
How you doing? It's Joe from Lynbrook again.
Joe!
What's up, Joe?
Joe, do you want Steve to appraise your car?
No, the Exxon Valdez.
Yes, I do. Actually, I do want him to replace my car. We were supposed to make a deal. He reneged on the deal. He said he'd get a pogo stick for me. That's what he was going to get me.
Wait. No. Chris didn't say, do you want Steve to replace your car? He said, do you want to appraise your car?
Yeah. The pile is young. I know. I already heard this song before. Stop already, right, guys?
Listen, you called. We wouldn't have mentioned it unless you called.
I know. I'm the street man for this act, though. You got to remember, I bring all the material in.
That's true. Joe has a 96 Honda Odyssey.
Yeah.
First of its kind. The first minivan of its kind.
Right.
Which makes it rare.
Right, it's rare.
It's the Cadillac of minivans.
And collectible.
And it seems that Joe is saddled with, he's suffering with the fact that this thing is leaking from every orifice possible.
Mm-hmm. Some of his, too.
That pogo stick's starting to look better, isn't it?
Oh, you guys are cracking me up this morning. Here we go.
You called. We didn't call you.
I fixed it. I got the eviction fixed at least. That's a plus.
Oh, how'd you do that, Joe?
I can't tell you.
All right,
well, thanks for calling, man.
Well, listen, what can you tell us?
Yes.
No, it's fixed. It's legally fixed. No, he did it right. I went to Capitol, and the boys took care of me, They were cursing me out of court in Jamaican in many languages that I can't say on the radio.
Yeah, right. It's a family program, yes.
Yes, it's a family program, and then nonetheless, they were not happy to see my face come to the door with the Chug-a-Bug.
Well, I'm glad. So you're getting it fixed. A bit, probably breaking some EPA laws, but you're getting it fixed.
No EPA laws at all. He went piece to piece.
Okay, well, don't worry. You're amongst friends. But
I'm amongst friends, but no EPA laws. It's not burning white smoke up the back tailpipe.
Okay.
She's alive, and she's running.
But you still have that check engine light, right?
Yes, it's still on there. I got to take it to somebody else to have it put on a different computer.
Right.
I have to have my friend look at it and see if he can find out and diagnose what the problem is. I just want to fix that one problem, and then I'm just going to work on the other couple problems. That's it. I find out where the leak is coming from, basically. The oil leak is coming from the oil pan gasket.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but you have to drop the exhaust system in order to access it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the one piece of pipe I'm going to change that other piece of pipe from right there.
All right.
So that'll be another piece that we replace. So I'll do two birds with one stone.
Amazing! You're actually being efficient about this.
Yes, exactly. I have to be as efficient as possible and as cost-effective as possible, because you guys said it's not worth putting time into. So now I'm going around online looking for parts for this car in junkyards, hopefully getting that at a cheaper price.
Well, that's actually a pretty good idea, as long as you have to be somewhat selective of what part. If you're going to find like an exhaust system part in a junkyard, it's probably going to be in the same condition.
Exhaust system parts, no, you can't do that.
Right. Okay, good. So you're aware of that.
Yeah, I'm very aware of that.
Okay.
You have to market parts that we can look for.
Okay. All right,
and
good.
also, I'm just trying to find a rack for it, and I'll be happy. Now, that'll be most happy.
A rack, you probably find a better
condition. All I need is this exhaust pipe. And this oil pan gasket.
And this tennis racket.
And this rack.
And this chair.
And these tie rod ends.
That's all I need.
And that CV joint. That's all I need, and I don't need anything else.
Okay, guys, jump on the bandwagon, jump on poor Joe from Limerick. I understand, boys. I understand.
Joe says it's a case of euthanasia if he ever heard one. We got to call Dr. Kevorkian of the automotive world.
Yeah,
got to give him a shout at the psyllium soda.
They call me Dr. Frankenstein. It's a monster.
What was it, psyllium soda?
All right, boys, but you have a great afternoon.
All right, Joe.
Plenty of always talking to you. I figured I always call and get you guys feedback. It's always a straight line joke. That's what it is.
You got
well, we're glad you're fixing it. Thank God you're fixing it. So.
Yes, little by little, I promise you, one day you'll see the car and I'll have it all running up. But
all right.
Take care, boys.
We're looking forward to it. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
516-572-7440 is the phone number. We're inundating Steve Linden with...
You know, we're going to take a break.
Yes, we are.
We need a break.
We do.
But I want to talk to Steve about a question regarding marital bliss when we come back from the break.
Wow.
Because you'll have the answer.
Okay.
Wow.
My
Steve.
wife might beg to differ, but...
No, she'll have a better answer.
Okay.
And I know she does. But we'll leave it in your court.
In that case, definitely got to come back here for this one, because I'm just as intrigued as everyone else is. But, of course, you can check out this show on iHeartRadio. You can also check it out on Performance Motorsports Network. We have a podcast. We have a very bad blog. And you can see us on VonLive.tv/MotorMouthRadio, plus your calls at 516-572-7440. More of Steve Linden coming your way right here on the station that has Motormouth Radio. Oh, you lucky dogs.
The Motormouths will be right back with your car questions. Give us a call at 516-572-7440.
Ron Stevens on the radio. Join me for Artist Spotlight, a show that spotlights the greatest singers of the rock era. Artist Spotlight looks back at your favorite performers and updates us on what they're doing now. Musical themes like Motown and the British Invasion and other milestones are revisited. So listen to Artist Spotlight on 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College.
Listen to Artist Spotlight, Monday at 5 p.m. on WHPC 90.3 FM, the voice of Nassau Community College.
Have a question about your car or someone else's car? Then give the Motormouths a call, 516-572-7440.
That's the phone number to get you in touch, 516-572-7440. Steve Linden is here from SteveLinden.com. All things appraising, authoring, columnisting, all kinds of good stuff. You can find it all there at SteveLinden.com. And he's in here with the studio with us. 516-572-7440. Go ahead, Ray. Have at it.
Okay, Steve, I'd like for you, please, to explain to us in the audience how marital bliss and interpersonal relationships can be increased by something like the Port Jefferson Hill climb.
What?
It's nothing he hasn't covered in public already. Come on.
That's true. I can't necessarily tell you how it can be increased. I can tell you how it can be decreased.
Tested.
Or tested,
well,
yes.
That leads to marital bliss.
I take it back. I can tell you how it can be increased. Okay. Don't do it with your spouse. And I was given that warning the first time that I did it.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't listen. And my wife and I did a rally out in Port Jeff, all the way out to the East End, then to Northport, and then back to Port Jeff. It was a half a day.
Okay.
And you really have to have great navigational skills, great interpersonal communication skills, great driving skills. I mean, it's
you had some of them yourself, and you thought you'd be doing the navigating.
It was, I can't even begin to tell you, but everything has to go perfectly in order to even be in the top 25%. Let's put it that way.
Did you drive the Cougar?
I did drive the Cougar.
Okay.
And you ready for this? As I said, everything has to go perfectly, not just on your end, but on the organizer's end. And I'm not referring to this year. This year, everything went well. Last year, they give you clues. You know how rallies work, and they may give you a clue.
Please explain briefly how a rally works.
The clue might be drive approximately a half a mile and make a left turn where George Washington slept. So now you have to look for a landmark where it says George Washington slept here.
Or a big bed on the side of the road.
Or a big bed on the side of the road with a picture of George Washington. But it's like that, and it goes on, and there could be anywhere from 10 to maybe 100 clues. And you're set off at a certain... You start at a certain time, and the car behind you starts at a certain time. And it's not a race, but it's a time-speed distance rally. So you have to finish within a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 seconds of what time you're expected to finish in.
So you're racing the clock.
You're racing the clock, and last year's rally... The very, very first clue that they gave was wrong. It was an error.
Oh, great.
The very first one.
So they didn't run the course, I guess.
No, they did.
But they didn't read the directions when they read the course.
I'm driving around Belterre with my wife, yelling at her, why can't you find this landmark?
Oh, my word.
And she's saying, I swear, it's not here, it's not here. And I'm going, Pam, come on, why can't you find the landmark?
Yeah.
And then we see the cars that took off a minute before us. We're all passing each other back and forth, and we realized that the first clue was wrong. And they give you an envelope that you can open in case of an emergency that will just take you to the end.
Okay.
So that's what we ended up doing.
Wow.
But we are so bad at it. This is the truth. This is not a cliche. I'm not making this up. The only people that we beat were a husband and wife. The driver was legally blind, although he could drive, and his wife was navigating. We beat them.
You know, I got to tell you, I had done road rallies in the past. I did a good amount of them.
That's awesome.
And I think the last one I did with my wife in my other Fiat, and it was the same thing. She had to navigate, and she's not particularly the best navigator. I mean, I think she might admit that herself. Maybe not. I'll hear about it later. I'll find out.
Yes,
but we did have some trouble along the way.
Right.
And when I realized we're screwed, I said, you know what? Don't worry about it. Let's just go and we'll have fun. Like, because it didn't mean that much. Like, I wasn't I wasn't going for like the gold cup or anything. So I kind of knew that was my bar. Like, okay, when things get like when it's like Danger Will Robinson, it's like we're done. We had fun. Let's continue on with our day. It's not worth getting divorced over.
Well, that's what we learned we learned that the first year, and that's what we did the second year.
Oh, you actually did this again?
Oh, we did it again.
Yeah.
You know the term a glutton for punishment?
Yeah.
Okay.
This can build into a very, very unique yearly bonding experience between a husband and wife.
Yeah, no, we did it the second year. It was better the second year. And then this year we did the Port Jeff Hill Climb, which is really cool. It's a recreation. I think they do it every 10 years. It's been run for over 100 years.
You thought you needed a car with knobby tires.
Oh, my God.
It was great. Can you describe the Port Jeff Hill Climb? I know nothing.
It starts at the Port Jeff Center at the bottom of the hill in Port Jeff. It goes up to the top of the hill where the hospitals are. It's very short. It's not a rally. The whole thing is maybe a mile or two.
Okay.
We managed to get lost on that. But that's fine. We still had a great time. But
you're learning.
My car, which was a 72 Cougar, was one of the newest cars there. They had cars going back to the turn of the century.
Allards?
And no, I didn't see any Allards.
Okay.
But they had some great cars. Lots. I guess the Ford Model A Club must have been there because there were lots and lots of Model A's. Okay. So there were plenty of cars from the late 20s to the early 30s, and just really, really great cars. But the cool part was, we didn't know this. When you pull out of the parking lot and start going up the hill, the side of the road was lined with hundreds of people cheering you along, just like it must have been 100 years ago.
Excellent.
And that was really, really cool.
That's a scream.
Yeah, so that was fun. It's all over in 5 minutes, but it was great. A lot of fun.
I'll have to look for that one next year for myself.
10 years. You got to wait 5 or 10 years now.
That's all. That's
all they do.
Why do they do it in that interval? Why so long?
I don't know. But,
that's terrible.
I have a friend who tells me about it when it comes up, and I'll make sure
you
know far enough in advance to register.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Sure.
Son of a gun. That's great.
Okay.
Yeah, just like this show. 5 minutes of cheering, and then it's all over.
That's all over. Unless you go to cruise nights.
Oh yeah.
Then it just keeps on coming.
Let's go back to the phones, back to the fun. Hi, you're on with the Motor Mouths and Steve Linden.
Oh yeah.
And someone has their radio on. We can hear ourselves.
That's time to go, caller. Say hello.
All right. 516-572-7440 is the phone number.
I got to tell you something that happened last night. We've talked about this with kids, our own kids, and younger people, even into their 30s, and how social networking has taken over every facet of getting things done.
Sure.
Well, last night, this cruise night, Joe D was with me, and he had to see a couple people out a few things. And he had a very successful night. And afterwards, we compared notes and said, that's because you social networked our way, the car guy way, the old car guy way, face-to-face, getting things done, talking about things at a table or off to the side, and things happened and got done. And that's what I think, one of the things that we need to impart to the younger people in the hobby. Everything doesn't have to be on a cell phone. Right. Go over and talk to the guy. They're texting each other across the park. Go talk to him. Mm-hmm. Lot can get done. And when you see it happen, it doesn't surprise me because I do it myself, but it's just nice to see.
Yep. Very true.
Absolutely.
Back to the phones. Back to the fun. Hi, you're on with the Motor Mouths.
Hello, how are you, Motor Mount?
Who's this?
Jonathan from Manhattan.
Hi, Jonathan. How are you? How's that Buick?
Yesterday I drove a 59 Edsel. With 361 engine in there.
Really?
From Manhattan to Roosevelt Field in Long Island and back, and it ran beautifully.
Wow.
What do you have to do? Go pick up a new pair of shoes?
Of course, why not? While I'm there. Good food.
Yeah, right. Do a little shopping, yeah. Excellent.
Had that here. And another thing, I noticed the ignition was all the way to the left by the door.
Yes. That's where mine is.
Yeah, unbelievable,
Jonathan, I'm glad you mentioned that. Steve, you may know, my Pontiac has the key on the left, the 64 and 65 GTOs have it. Why did they do that?
That's a good question. I have absolutely no idea.
People
I've
ask
seen many
me,
cars like that.
And I say, I have no idea. There's other cars like that. It's the way I bought it.
Just to be different. I really do.
It fits perfectly. There's a good spot for it. But
okay. I also had a 66 Oldsmobile, and the ignition was straight ahead.
Straight ahead?
In the front, not on the steering wheel.
No, right. It's
on the dash.
Yes, it's on the dashboard to the right of the steering wheel.
Chevelles moved them up. They were up higher on the Chevelles, the 66 and 7s were up high.
So what reason did you drive a 59 Edsel? What was it's not something that happens every day.
Right, my friend has one. It's not mine, and he let me drive it.
Very nice.
He was sitting next to me, so we went there. It was beautiful.
Yeah,
and everybody looked at us and says, wow, they've never seen a car like this.
Yeah.
In a long time. It's something special.
I think
I love your show, by the way, when you speak about these old cars. It's right up my alley.
Right. I think if I was on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, I would have probably hit the Palisades or something.
Upper West Side, my friend.
Upper West, sorry. Even closer then.
Right. It's a little better than the East Side.
Yes. Henry Hudson.
Gotcha.
All right.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you for the news.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
We'll talk soon. Bye-bye. 516-572-7440. There's a car that definitely fluctuates in value. Edsels.
I just saw a show on them this past week. They had a special on Edsels on I think it was on Velocity Channel. I don't know. Interesting story, behind the Edsel.
Mm-hmm.
And its impending doom and fail. And now, like they even mentioned it, now they've become collectible to some degree. Our friend Fred has an Edsel, a beautiful one, a convertible.
Right.
What's the model of? I forget the model.
Pacer, maybe?
Ranger,
maybe.
There's Rangers,
Pacers,
Citations.
Yes,
and
very good.
Corsairs.
Okay.
Right.
He's either a Ranger or a Pacer.
I'm dropping gems today,
Wow,
Steve.
excellent.
You got to come in here more often. You make me shine. Back to the phones. Back to the fun. Hi, you're on with the Motor Mouths. Hello. Hello. Who's this?
Yes, it's Steve.
Hey,
Stevie. What's happening?
What's up, brother love? How are you?
Oh,
Oh, good. I just wanted to know if you guys were talking about last night.
I was mentioning something. I didn't mention that it was intake manifold night at Whitestone at Cascarino's last night. I'm standing there with Steve. Some guy walks over, carrying a tunnel ram intake. Then I said, "Wait a minute, I can trump that." I go over to my car, I bring back my Hillborn fuel injection intake.
Ooh. They just conveniently carries around.
And then I went and showed you I got a dual quad Olds intake in the car. So it was intake manifold night last night. We have themes to our cruises, you know.
There was a lot of muscle there last night.
Oh boy, was there ever. Beautiful.
Oh,
beautiful
man, I've never seen so many blowers at one show.
I know. Blowers and lots of carburetors.
A lot of carburetors.
Hey, Steve, I heard you get the big hello now, huh?
Yeah.
At Belmore.
I'm telling you, you guys set me up. That's Steve. Gas Steve is definitely my name. And we have fun with it, you know?
Yeah.
That's awesome. You know, that's what we're here for, Steve.
I got to say, Steve, being a newer recruit into your circle of friends and, Billy's guys and Joe's guys, all those guys, you're such a great group of guys. And it's nice to know, like we've always said, guys have been doing the same thing in different spots forever. You just don't usually get to cross-pollinate, if you will. And I'm happy to be able to be part of that and meet these guys, yourself included. It's a big thrill for me.
Oh, last night was definitely a historical night. There's guys walking around the parking lot with tunnel rams and all kinds of antiques.
Right.
And they're swapping back and forth. It was just a really, and the weather was perfect.
Yeah. And then we were sitting there, the other antiques. We saw a guy actually, we have Steve Linden in the studio with us today, Steve. We saw a guy, I was on one side, Steve was on the other, and this guy was sitting in one of those folding chairs. And it literally collapsed under him, and he just fell back and just laid
it. Say that. You can't say that on the radio.
Oh, yes, I can. As long as I don't give his name or his weight. And it was like, everybody looked like, that really happened, didn't it? It just literally blew this thing apart.
I looked over there, and all it was plastic and metal and vinyl on the floor, and he was raining right on it.
Right.
Yeah. It was definitely not rated for that tonnage.
Right. No. So, Steve, you have, and of course, Let East is coming up, but you have another show.
This weekend is Let East. Me and my wife are going on Friday morning. We're taking the two cars, 58 Corvette and 63 Tempest.
Right. And then you have Dead Man's Curve, which is the antithesis of Let East.
Well, we're going to go back and forth. Dead Man's Curve, we're going to be staying there in Mawa. But we're going to take a ride over to Linden to Let East, check it out. I think we're going to have dinner over there at Ruth Chris. Oh, not Ruth Chris. Good steaks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the tell everybody what the theme of Dead Man's Curve is, because people may not know.
Dead Man's Curve is gases, rat rods, and hot rods.
Yeah. Very cool.
It's a cool show. It really is.
I'm hoping to make that one myself.
It's run by a group of guys who've just been friends for like the last 25 years, and it's just a really good show. You don't have to worry about your car. It's the Mawa. It's in Mawa, New Jersey, and the police department actually patrols it all night. They hire them all night with 5 different cars, 5 cop cars.
Nice.
And so, you can sleep tight, no problem. Or you can stay up all night and hang out by the car.
Yeah.
A lot of guys do.
Well, that's awesome, Steve. Thank you so much for the call, my brother. It's always a pleasure hearing from you.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks, Steve. I'll talk to you soon.
We'll talk soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
516-572-7440 is the phone number to get a hold of Steve Linden here with us. Auto appraiser, author, columnist extraordinaire here to answer all your questions at 516-572-7440. Ray Guarino behind the shop bench. I'm Chris Switzer. And, of course, the Motormouth Radio Honor Group of the Hour, drivers who own right-hand drive vehicles. And that even counts those occasional post office vehicles that you see plodding around the roads. If you got one of those, amongst all the laughing, give yourself a big pat on the back because you're part of the Motormouth Radio Honor Group of the Hour. Keep it where you got it. Got a lot more coming your way.
We'll be back with answers to your car questions. Give us a call at 516-572-7440. Oh, I should have said the Motormouth thing.
For nearly 25 years, attorney Kenneth Landau in Mineola and his expert guests have been educating our listeners about their legal rights. After an accident, when buying and selling real estate, concerning wills and estates, the criminal justice system, employment, business law, and much, much more. You too can learn about the law and your legal rights on Law You Should Know. Every Monday at 4 p.m., Tuesday at 1 p.m., or Sunday at 7 a.m., right here on 90.3 FM WHPC, the radio voice of Nassau Community College. Streaming at ncc.edu/WHPC.
Got a car question? Give the Motor Mouth a call at 516-572-7440.
All right. Welcome back to Motormouth Radio. We're taking those calls. 516-572-7440. Steve Linden from SteveLinden.com here in the studio with us, appraising your automobile if you choose to have him do it. 516-572-7440. What's in the camp now, Steve? What do you have that you drive on a regular basis? I know because it changes, doesn't it?
It hasn't been changing very much lately.
What?
Just my old Cougar still.
Yeah.
But really, just the past year has just been focusing on this little project, and that's it. So really, nothing new in the stable.
How can anybody get any more information on the little project if you can give it out?
Oh, they have a website.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, you have to change the tag, because when you save that website, when you save it, it comes up as homepage. So you need to have that saved so the name comes up. And I forget there's a name for that, doing that. I forget what it's called. You would probably know.
No, yeah, I know where to find it.
When you look
through
it, it just says homepage. So you have to.
It's like an identifier. Yeah, because that's how they find you.
Yeah.
Well, they I'm not allowed to mention the name of the company, but
okay,
they can contact me if they'd like to at my email address is Steam. There you go. Steve at ChromeStrategiesInvestment.com.
Got it.
Very good.
So they can contact me there.
So let me ask you this: if being that you do appraise cars all over the world, what goes into that? Like I've talked to people who didn't want to have I don't want to have anybody looking at my car. I'm like, why not? What goes into that to dispel some of the myths people may have?
Well, the first myth that people seem to have is that I have to drive and thrash their car.
Okay.
And if it happens to be a Ferrari F40, I always tell them, yes, that's the case.
Of course.
But, no, I'm only kidding. But,
40,
it's the first thing I do to dispel people's, myths, for lack of a better word, is, it's kind of like when you buy a house or you're selling a house. The first thing you do is you have the appraiser come, and the appraiser looks around and pokes around, but he doesn't climb up on the roof and he doesn't check to see if your appliances work, and he still puts a value on the house. Then the inspector comes. Right, and there's many different kinds of value. But yeah, fair market value is what most of them that I do. So it's really just a visual, physical inspection of the car. So there's nothing intrusive and nothing to be afraid of, and that's it. And the rest of it is researching comps, and I have what I call my 40-40-20 rule, which is, basically 40% of my value comes from what are called recently recorded public sales, which is just a fancy way of saying auction results, published figures, and then 20% of my knowledge of the market.
Now, do you think auction results are, in general, higher or lower than private sale results?
In general, auction results are higher, especially when you back out the buyer's premium, which I do have to for most appraisals.
Right.
So they are generally higher, but every personal property has a range of values, so I kind of try to accommodate the customer, and if it's an insurance appraisal, as long as I stay within that legitimate range, I will stay towards the higher end of the range. So.
Is there anything people can do to help their car appraise higher than it might if they hadn't done certain things?
And as long as I've been doing this, nobody's asked me that question. That's a great question.
Wow. Well, that's why you're here, because we asked the tough question.
No, that's a good one, and I'm thinking on the
I don't know where
fly.
that came from, Chris. Help me out.
Yeah, that was good.
Yes, if I had to answer that question, as I said, 40% of the value roughly comes from, databases, whether it's public sales, whatever. And
so people have to feed you the good auction coverage to show that the high
they don't have to do that, but what they can do is they can affect my 20% part, which is my knowledge, and they can tell me, listen, my father bought this car new. That does affect things. I have original build sheets, window stickers, whatever it happens to be.
Documentation.
Tell me about the car. Tell me about the history of the car, because there are intangibles. Like, you're a GTO guy. Would you pay a little more for a GTO if the guy selling it bought the car brand new? Put two cars side by side.
Good point. Sure.
So there are little intangibles. So
the reason I asked that is you had me thinking about houses, and they would say, well, what, you want to sell a house? the kitchen and bathroom.
Right,
you got
street
those
appeal.
rooms have to look right, and then of course curb appeal, right?
Curb appeal.
So I figured maybe it applies to cars as well.
To some degree it does, but it's so nuanced. Unlike with houses, with houses you see ratty, tattered appliances and furnitures in there. It's going to appraise for less. But sometimes you take a car that maybe it's original and the interior is a little tattered. So, you don't want to touch that. But in general...
Survivor, yeah.
Yeah. Generally speaking, I think the better it presents, the more it's going to appraise for.
It's funny you should mention survivors, because that's like this new category now. People are collecting survivor cars. Is that value skyrocketing as well?
That value is
basis?
skyrocketing, and in our little venture, we're going to be seeking to acquire survivors. That's my personal pick for the market. There are people out there. I'll just give you eBay as an example. There are so many people out there looking for survivors that there are people out there that their search criteria is survivor.
Wow.
They don't care if it's a GTO. They don't care if it's a Ferrari. If it's a survivor, they're interested in buying the car. They're collecting survivors.
Wow.
Now, of course, people define survivors as different things. I see things that get pulled out of barns that people say to me, well, it's original. It's not a survivor.
Right.
Right.
Joe wants to know, of course, Joe and I, whenever we go out, we're fixated with split bumper, second-generation Camaros.
Right.
We both want another one.
Yep.
And we've been seeing the values of those rising.
Yes.
And I guess Joe is curious, have you seen anything concrete, percentage-wise, of how high those cars have...
Absolutely. And I think that's a generational thing, and I don't know how old Joe is, but I would have to take a guess that he's probably somewhere in our age range.
He's a couple years older than I am.
Yeah, that's a generational thing which does drive the classic car market, and that's one of the easy, everybody knows the price of oil goes up in the winter, the price of classic cars go up as you track, correlate generations to the age of the car. And I think that's why they're going up. But yes, I would say probably in the past, if I had to pick a number, 5 years, they've probably gone up 20, 25, 30%. It's not a huge increase, but I think they're going to continue moving up like that.
So if you want a cheap cruiser to have fun with, buy a Model A.
Yes,
because you can get one for like $8,500.
That's right.
You can get one for $8,500 all day long.
You can get a beautiful
years.
Yeah, I said a good one you can drive.
Yes, absolutely.
No, that's for sure. That's a car that I would assume a Model A is not an investment vehicle. The price will always be the same.
Used to be.
It used to be. You're right. It's not an investment vehicle anymore. The prices on those have leveled off, and if you believe what I'm saying about it being generational, they're probably going to start coming off.
Exactly.
Because there's a lot of them out there.
Right.
Very true.
But knuckleheads and panheads and 45s is still trading high.
Yes, especially knuckleheads.
So talk about generational. That kind of almost breaks that mold a little bit. So why are motorcycles different?
You want to know why? Because there are certain things, like for example, why a '63 split window Corvette? There's nothing special about it except for that little bar down the window. Because certain things are iconic, and that's where the value, that's where the intrinsic value is, and in the fact that it's iconic, and panheads are iconic.
Black Shadow.
Yeah.
Another one. Just the name says, I want one.
Right, exactly. So that's it. It's
CB750s.
Oh, yeah.
I'll give you. Or now, I've seen...
Oh, my gosh, I track those every day.
And not even the Sandcast ones.
Right.
The K2 models.
You guys, what the heck are you guys talking about?
We're talking about collectability.
Right.
Motorcycles?
No, 750s, I look at the prices of those every day.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like the dual overhead cam, but the single overhead cam ones, they're holding firm over the duals haven't come up yet. So.
Right, correct. Yep.
So, Steve, just off the top of your head, before we wrap this up, what car do you think is a buyer right now? What do you think is a buyer that you can predict in 10 years will be somewhat of a seller?
Oh, it's hard to say. If somebody said to me 10 years, and I always hate to go out 10 years because so many things can affect the value of something over a period of 10 years, but if you had to say to me 10 years, I would have to say... And I preface this by saying I would have said the same thing 10 years ago, and I would have been wrong. I would have to say 56 and 57 Lincoln Continental Mark IIs.
Nice.
Wow.
Yep. Very, very limited production. Ford lost money on every one of them. They're hand-built. They're beautiful. They're iconic. I believe they're undervalued.
You just need a big garage.
You need a big garage.
A long garage.
You know what? I'm with you on that, because a lot of those Lincolns, especially the Premiers, anything the Panamera, Carrera,
Panamera,
the Mexican, quote-unquote Mexican Lincolns, 52, 54,
right.
55.
Yep.
And I think you're right. They're all understated elegance. Very cool. Good choice. I approve.
All right.
You got the Chris Switzer seal of
Very
approval.
good.
Woo! So, Steve, how can anybody get a hold of you if I ask questions or get to partake in your services? 2 ways. One is steve@stevelinden.com. 3 ways. steve@stevelinden.com, stevelinden.com, or steve@chromestrategiesinvestment.com. So I'm easy to find. Fantastic. That is great. Steve, always a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure. You always make
Thanks
me
for
look
coming.
better than I really am.
Thank you.
Author, columnist, investor.
Hill climber.
Marriage
counselor.
Right.
Oh, don't put that one in there.
And champion varmint wrangler, the extraordinary Steve Linden with us. If you missed any of it, you can check it out on motormouthradio.com. A very good interview. Steve, thank you so much.
Thank you.
For Ray Guarino, I'm Chris Switzer. This is Motormouth Radio. We'll talk on Thursday. And, of course, don't follow us home. See ya.
Bye.